Let's talk more about this one with Robert Ray, who worked on Donald Trump's legal defense team ahead of his 2020 impeachment trial. Robert, good to have you. I've been eager to talk to you this morning. This is a huge day ahead for President Trump. What's the likelihood the judge tosses these charges per Trump's request?
It's not likely that the judge will toss the entire case. There's a motion pending, and it's been pending for some time, where the president makes the point that he's being picked on. Essentially, it's a selective prosecution argument. Those are very rarely granted. If it were granted, of course, it would eliminate the entire case. But there are also pretrial motions that specifically get into the various charges, the 34 counts. And by and large, they're essentially united on a single theme. They are what otherwise would be characterized as relatively minor books and records misdemeanors. But the prosecutor has chosen to enhance those charges and try to turn them into felonies on the theory that those books and records violations that would otherwise be misdemeanors are now felonies because they carried with them an intent to commit some other crime. The question is, the legal question is whether that some other crime has been properly charged under New York law. And not to get too far into the weeds here, I think that's likely to be an area, or could be an area, where the judge might actually trim the sails of the prosecution in advance of trial, or may decide to wait until trial to see the evidence first before deciding whether or not those various or all of those various counts go to the jury.
Yeah, we know the trial is slated for March 25th at this time. You know, some legal experts, Robert, have come forward and said that this indictment in particular is the weakest of the bunch that is facing President Trump. Do you see it the same way? How do you think it stacks up against his other indictments?
I think it's weakest in the sense that even if the allegations were proven to be true, they don't rise to the same level as allegations involving interference with an election, which is the basis of the January 6th charges pending in D.C., as well as the charges you just mentioned, the election interference case in Georgia. I also think it's true that as a matter of law, these charges are the weakest. I think that's why today is an important development, because I think we'll know more about what this judge thinks about the merits of the government's prosecution.
Yeah, you also just brought up the Georgia case, and our own Brooke Schaefer just reported live from Atlanta ahead of today's Fonnie Willis case and hearing. Her relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade has certainly become a distraction. Let's talk about that quickly. I mean, chances they'll be disqualified from even trying it.
Well, it's certainly a distraction, and it may actually cause somewhat of a derailment of that prosecution. I don't think that it will necessarily mean that the indictment would be dismissed, but it may require the appointment of a new special prosecutor, which will certainly derail the case in the sense that an August trial date, which I think was the earliest that the prosecution was seeking here, that's not likely to hold. And so the consequence of this, I think, is pretty important, because the likelihood is if the prosecutor is replaced and disqualified, it would mean that trial would not go forward before the election in all likelihood.
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot to sift through there. What is legally, critical versus what's just salacious. Robert Ray, thank you so much for your time ahead of a big day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.